Hi, my name is Elizabeth. My city for the city project is Bangkok, Thailand. Just to give some background on Bangkok, it is the capital of Thailand. It is a mega city. It is the fifth largest city in East Asia. And I'm just going to dive right in with some of the policies, starting with informal settlements. Almost 1 million people in Bangkok live in informal settlements. The UN has identified a statistical relationship between crime and migration into informal settlements, so the crime rate is a problem. The government has actually not done a whole lot as far as enforcing their own policies in order to deal with informal settlements. However, there is a not really sure what to call it, a program, let's say, set up by the government. It is called Ban Mekong. It was set up in 2003, and basically what it does is it channels government funds in the form of infrastructure subsidies, housing, and land loans directly into the poorer communities so that they can choose what they do as far as the upgrades in their society goes. This compares to the other cities in my group. The other cities were Denver, Johannesburg, and Santo Domingo. Denver, there's not a whole lot for informal settlements. It's an American city, so it's not really the same as other cities in other countries in other parts of the world. Johannesburg, there's a lot of government action to improve living conditions in the informal settlements and to establish townships and getting rid of slums. Santo Domingo is actually fairly similar to Bangkok as far as they're trying to get community-based programs. In Thailand, 12 years of free education, 9 of which are mandatory. The government wants the highest possible literacy rate in the country, which is currently at 92%, so about 8% of adults are still illiterate. Many schools, however, are suffering from underfunding and a low teacher-to-student ratio. On to unemployment. Bangkok has actually one of the lowest unemployment rates at about 0.6%. This is due to the fact that a lot of people are self-employed, basically. There's a lot of informal employment, which means a lot of street vendors, a lot of people involved in agriculture, and not very many people have insurance. This compares to unemployment rates of 4.2% in Denver, 25% in Johannesburg, and 14.4% in Santo Domingo. Now on to population. The population of Bangkok has grown from about 9.6 million, or from about 7.8 million people in 2000 to 9.6 million in 2010. Not really sure about the change from 2010 to 2015. This is actually fairly modest growth for an East Asian city. And the population growth rate is at about 0.5%, comparing to 1.59% gain in Denver, 3.18% growth in Johannesburg, and 1.25% in Santo Domingo. All right, thank you.
Primary education in Santo Domingo is free for all children between the ages of 7 and 14, which isn't required or enforced, especially in more rural areas. Uniforms are required to attend school and are not provided by the government. Many nonprofit organizations have established themselves in the Dominican Republic, which has assisted in providing the necessary amenities for underprivileged children to take advantage of the school system. Private citizens and foreign residents have also started various programs to help the less fortunate families in sending their kids to school. The population of the Dominican Republic was estimated at 8,442,553 in July of 2000, an increase of 15% from the 1993 census figure of 7,293,390. The Dominican Republic's unemployment rate is the highest in Latin America and Caribbean areas, despite having the fastest sustained growth of its gross domestic product, or GDP, in the last few years. The report placed Dominican Republic's jobless rate in 2010 at 14.4%, much higher than the regional 7.6% average. And even with the GDP's 7.8% growth for 2010, data for the 2000 to 2010 period reveals that Dominican Republic's unemployment rate significantly surpassed the Latin American average year after year. The community known as Los Platanitos has been the subject of Community and Regional Program Coordinator and Associate Professor Sleto's bi-yearly course called Latin American Planning Studio since 2008. Recently, the program instituted a pilot program for disposing organic waste. In 2008, the class found that trash was one of the biggest impediments to quality of life. The community, which is built on top of a thinly covered landfill, disposes its waste by dumping it into La Cañada, a creek that runs through the upper and lower parts of the settlement. However, La Cañada has been narrowed as the community developed and flows at a slow pace. During rains lasting more than an hour, the trash blocks the flow of water through it, causing the houses and narrow alleyways in the lower half of the community to be flooded by contaminated water.
My city project was done on Denver, also known as the Mile High City. Many of the city informal settlement problem is because of poverty among its residents. Many of the houses are very expensive, so it's really hard for people to be able to afford them. In order to combat that problem, the city is taking measures to provide more affordable housing. The mayor of the city, Michael Hancock, is making that issue a major part of his platform, and he has committed more money in the next year's budget to develop more housing. Also, concerning education, the city of Denver has been progressing rapidly. The district graduation rate has increased from 61.3% during the 2012-2013 school year to 62.8% during the 2013-2014 school year. And its overall dropout has also declined from 5% to 4.5%, according to the data released by the Colorado Department of Education. Concerning unemployment, Denver's unadjusted unemployment rate stood at 4.3% in March, which is down from the 4.5% in February, and which is also well below the 5.9% in March last year. The city seems to be heading in the right direction in terms of unemployment rate, because its unemployment rate is well below the national level, which stands at 5.5%. In terms of population, Denver has led Colorado in population growth for the past 4 years in a row. Majority of the population is white with 68.9%, blacks coming at number 2 with 10.2%. Denver is both the fastest growing city and county in the state, with a growth rate of 2.42% from 2011 to 2012. The city country's growth is attributed to ongoing development of areas like Stapleton, the build-out of the area's few remaining greenfield areas, and a great deal of densification in the urban areas. Thank you.
Johannesburg's current population is approximately 4.4 million people. It has an annual growth rate of 3.2%, and over the next 3 decades, it is expected to grow another 66%. In an effort to keep up with the demand for water, as Johannesburg is not located near any natural water source, the city has implemented a policy targeted at reducing the future demand by 90 billion liters. In addition, many public housing projects are underway to keep up with the population trends, yet little progress is seen in reducing the number of people who live below the poverty line. Unemployment in Johannesburg is officially reported as 25%, but in reality the rate is much closer to 40% when accounting for those who have left the labor system to live within the tenements. Informal trading on the streets of the inner city accounts for a significant 10% of the city's economic industry. The city has recently allowed many informal vendors to register for permits, allowing them to sell within the central business districts to spur economic growth at the ground level. However, this policy has been met with a lot of confusion and disorganization amongst vendors and within the bureaucracy. Of those over the age of 20, only 3.4% have completed primary school. This statistic is due to only the recent implementation of standardized primary school throughout South Africa. Under the South African Schools Act of 1996, segregated schooling practices of apartheid were ended and all children were officially guaranteed public primary school access. Today, under the Department of Basic Education, all subjects are taught up through grade 9, and education is funded through a central government tax. North of Johannesburg lies Diepsloot, an informal settlement born from the days of forced segregation. Despite the end of apartheid in 1994, approximately 200,000 people still live within the tenement, with more people arriving daily. Crime is a constant problem, with rape, drug addiction, and theft amongst the poor. Justice is being doled out by mobs, often burning people alive, reports the New York Times. Though the African National Congress has tried to aid Diepsloot by creating public housing programs, building roughly 10,000 homes, and attempting to maintain sewage and water utilities, it is failing to meet the demands of an ever-growing urban population. When comparing to the other cities of Denver, Bangkok, and Santo Domingo, Johannesburg's population falls in between that of Santo Domingo and Bangkok. The nature of the informal settlements is very similar to Santo Domingo in terms of their proximity to the rest of the city, though Johannesburg's government has proposed far more policies to aid those within the tenements. Whether or not those policies are effective is yet to be seen. In terms of education, it is difficult to compare the rate of primary school attendance to other cities, since primary school has only recently been afforded to all of Johannesburg's citizens. As such, the rate appears far lower than any of our other cities. In addition, Johannesburg has the highest unemployment of all our cities when looking at those not accounted for in the census.
So, eye for an eye.